this is, you already know what it is. It's just another thought process. Just want to say good morning and want to apologize as the video stopped recording about halfway or 3/4 of the way through. And I didn't realize, just bear with it. I do realize at some point and the video comes back on. But yes, if you're listening, great. If you want to watch it, apologies. Thank you. Hello, so we... Sorry? Hello. Do you hear what I say anyway? Yeah, you do. What do you mean? You can hear me. Okay, so let's start off with a little bit of silence to get the thing going, and then we'll do an introduction. And Mr. Gabriel, and your qualifications as well.
Oh, my qualifications.
Your qualifications, you know. So you got a PhD, you're a doctor, you've also saved a lot of babies.
I'm 24 years old, turning 25 at the end of the year. I've actually been a doctor for 50 years.
Let's go with that. You're definitely a vampire.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can achieve when you really set your mind to it in terms of, utilising time.
Definitely.
But no, if we're actually recording it on a serious note, I guess like...
Wait. I haven't started yet. We have to wait. Give it. You have to give it a little bit of space, and then we start, and then I do a welcoming thing. All right, ready?
That really hurts because I thought that was a joke.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of Just Another Thought Process. I'm here with Mr. Gabriel Iglesias. So why don't you introduce yourself, Gabriel?
Well, I'm pretty sure that's a comedian, isn't it?
Gabriel Iglesias
is
a
Hispanic.
Yeah,
Hispanic
no,
comedian?
he's a singer. Oh no, the big guy.
That's Enrique Iglesias.
Damn.
Stunningly looking dude.
That's the one. Yeah, that's Enrique. Gabriel's the big guy, the comedian. He's hilarious, by the way.
Love his work. But anyway,
you're not a comedian.
Didn't think we'd be plugging him so early on the show at all.
Well, I didn't. Honestly, that wasn't my aim of the game, but
it's happened. And if you want to sponsor the show,
let's do it.
Anyway.
I don't think I've ever called you Gabriel before. I think that's why.
Gabs.
Yeah. Okay, this is Gabs. Start again. Go. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm. My friends call me Gabs. My full name is Gabriel, but it's usually Gabs. And I've just known Seb here through my brother mainly, but for many years. Too many to mention on a show.
Nearly 20 more. I've known you for nearly 90% of your life, 80% of your life.
Yeah, since I was a
wee lad. 4 years of age,
potentially an annoying lad.
I don't remember you much as a wee lad. Got to know you more in high school.
I was much quieter back in the day, but anyway.
So you're Gabs, you're one of my closest mates' brothers, and then you became a close mate after that as well. You also went to the same schools as I went to?
Yeah, same primary school, same high school. So yeah, we've had exposure.
We have a lot of exposure.
Definitely had exposure.
And you've been studying.
Yes, and I guess I've been asked to participate in your podcast.
Well, you know what? We always have good conversations,
we have good chats.
And I wanted to catch it on the recording and then share it with the world, and hopefully it brings value to someone. It's probably just going to be me in 50 years looking back on all this. Wow, what did I do? It'll be good fun though.
But you did it.
I did.
And you did it because you wanted to do it.
I did. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I guess I'll give a blurb about myself in a
just quickly
different light. Yeah. So what I say in job interviews is I've just finished my honours in psychology last year, doing a project looking into the perspectives of Parkinson's patients when it comes to information access about a kind of last line treatment for them called deep brain stimulation, which is a innovative surgical procedure that involves kind of putting a pacemaker for the brain into people. So they will live for the rest of their lives with electrical leads that are attached to electrodes in their brain, which when turned on stimulate that area of the brain.
Right.
And the goal is for those electrodes to be on throughout the entire day to
give them more control over
so Parkinson's is a motor control disease disorder that means that many people, this is, like shaking of the hand and other limbs is an incredibly common symptom. There's other things like gait issues and posture, etc. But the common one you'll hear see the most about is the shaking. And by turning the electricity on in the right areas of the brain, you many hypotheses as to how it works, but I'll just say dampen activity in the brain.
So you won't be able to get rid of it completely?
No, but you alter activity in the brain to lessen shaking, often to the point where, it's
You can't
gone,
see it, yeah.
but, it's not foolproof. It doesn't always work. There's many issues with it. Don't sit there listening to me going like, oh, that's amazing. It works for everyone. It's got its issues. Everyone should research it. That's actually what my thesis was about, was promoting accurate information about it. It's not a miracle cure, etc.
Right. My both my grandmothers had Parkinson's. And I've always been worried that it's a genetic disease. Is it?
I'm not, I actually didn't look too much into the genetics of it. I believe there will likely be a genetic component, but as to whether it's it's genetic and that means it happens, or it's genetic and it needs environmental triggers to activate or something like that.
I haven't done much research on this, but I understand that it's sort of like the slow decrease of your... No, I don't know what I'm talking about. Let's just continue on. What is it?
Anyway, well, I can't actually tell you what it is exactly. I looked into the information about it. It's been a little while. I'd have to refresh myself. But yeah, I was looking more at deep brain stimulation than heavily studying Parkinson's. So while I know quite a bit about Parkinson's, I don't know everything about it. And I can't talk about it as easily as I can deep brain stimulation. But anyway, that's my brief history from last year, and since then I've been working in sociology research, and I guess sociology research accurately defines it as it's quite broad, what I've been working in, but it's in the area of psychology and sociology.
And how old are you?
24.
24 years of age.
Yes.
Looking to be a doctor soon.
That's the aim.
That's the aim of the game.
Doing a PhD finished PhD in the next 6 years. Sure.
But you've always loved psychology. That was in high school and then through uni because you focused on psychology.
Yeah.
Why?
Human behaviour, really. I probably should have done behavioural studies.
Okay.
Well, 18-year-old me would have gone, I should have done behavioural studies. I actually now enjoy more than that about psychology. I actually went to uni thinking that I'd do criminology because I did... I watched White Collar, the TV show, a lot back then and went, fuck, criminology is sick. I love crime. I love fraudulent people.
Why?
Studying them.
Why would you love fraudulent people?
Not fraudulent people, but just studying them, understanding what
be
they do and crimes that people do.
Well, I'd like to know what went through their brain in order to rationalise it, for one. But for two, they've all also found a way to rot the system that no one's thought of. So in a way... they're quite intelligent in a way. Have you seen Catch Me If You Can?
Potentially, but not enough.
It's got Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's about this guy who defrauded the banking system of so much money with fake checks. He was able to counterfeit checks all over America, and he pretended to be a pilot. And he noticed that if he was a person of certain stature, they would just cash these checks that were fake. And he defrauded the system for ages. And at the end of the movie, it shows you that they actually enlist him to help find other people. Once he was captured, which I found quite interesting because you're using someone who did do kind of bad stuff. See, I kind of I don't even know if it's bad. If he's found that way to defraud the system, I think he's onto something, and he kind of deserves it because if he's able to do it, he's done it well. But it's wrong.
Whether or not it puts out other
wrong.
People.
It does, yeah. If you're putting out the bank, that's what you mean. If you're taking the other people's money, then yeah.
If you're putting out the bank, maybe not. But if by putting out the bank, you're putting out the people the bank
then
serves.
Yes, yeah.
Because big banks are big banks.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to take them on me. But it was interesting at how he was able to do that through, it wasn't just counterfeiting the checks. It was how he acted with people, and then being enlisted onto that after all that to be able to help police force to find other people because he knew all the secrets. He was able to change it. And he's actually the guy who's been. Who helped with all our current processes. It would have been because of him that all this other fraud stuff would have stopped. So it's interesting to see how someone who's been able to defraud the system has impacted the system in a good way.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to how you started talking about all of that you're like, well, it'd be interesting to know how people justify, rationalize their actions, or what it is that drives it to them. And I definitely see one as affecting a certain type of crime and one as affecting another certain type of crime, right? So in a lot of circumstances, it's very easy to justify what you do because it comes down to, in my head, a stringency of your human rights and what you deserve, right? So a lot of the time people, thieves and other things, they steal because they actually have to.
Yes.
Or they believe that they have to because of the social system that they're set in, right?
Depends on the thief.
Yeah, it does. Like, obviously, I'm not saying 100% of crime or thievery is done because of this. But a lot of the time, it's, people who steal from a low socioeconomic background, and they're in a situation where they believe that's the best, easiest, often, and also best way for them to acquire money.
Yes.
They actually need to continue surviving. Like, that's kind of their income. That's how they do it.
Well, that's how they've been taught.
It's also how they've been taught. Yeah. So you've got this systemic social reason for them doing it. You've got an environmental in terms of their upbringing. And you put them together and you get people commit that kind of crime because they need something. So the rationalization often isn't actually that prevalent because they need to do it. Whereas you switch to talking about things like fraud and white collar crime, it's actually often people who they don't need to fraud it. They're just being greedy. They just want more and more and more.
Well, yeah, there's greedy, but they want a certain lifestyle that they've been sold.
Yeah.
Which is kind of systemic as well. Like you're in this social sort of...
Definitely. If you're going a bit more macro, then you can look at the social systems and sit there and go, well, actually, this kind of consumerist culture that we live in breeds this behaviour. Breeds people that need to go out there get more and more and more.
Well, yeah, exactly. What are you sold on, like movies and people on Instagram, people on Facebook, and how they live? You're sold a way of living.
And this is actually the topic that we were going to get into before. Often, social influencers.
Yes. Who
promote a certain lifestyle, promote a certain way of being, and they have an audience that then believes that is how they should be. Right? I don't know if we're going to find that many social influencers on Instagram, etc., that are doing crime and promoting crime or thievery. I don't think they go, hey, I stole this today and put it on Instagram. But
no.
So maybe not the smoothest transition into our topic, but a transition.
A transition nonetheless. Well, we could just use this as a conversation. It doesn't even transition to anything. So I actually like we're talking about fraud stuff, but I like your amazing... what's the word where you're very subtle? Yeah, very subtle transition into social...
Well, I saw it and I went for it.
You saw the opportunity and you just took it.
I took it. I thought about it and I went, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Just do it.
But anyway, so before we turn the mic on and the
mic's already on. The screen's on. We've been recording. Okay. So
before we turned it on, we were talking about what we were going to talk about today, and we came up with social influences, and I went, hey, there's this social psychology experiment. Very influential. People who study psychology, sorry, you've heard it. You've heard it many times. I've heard it many times. Been drilled into you. It's kind of like, it's not as big as the Zimbardo prison experiment or the Milgram conformity obedience studies that were done to try to explain Nazi Germany behaviours. This one's a bit smaller, but it was done by someone called Aish. I've forgotten his first name right now.
His name's H.
Aish. Like AISCH, okay. Some variant of that spelling.
007 or something.
No, just Q. It's actually done by Judi Dench. Dame Judi Dench, yes. But no, it was a conformity study done by this dude called Aish that looked into why people conform in social settings. Why do a lot of people feel the need to look like other people, be like other people, act like other people, live the way other people live, and just in every way be the way that someone else is in society? Maybe our individualist societies aren't really going in the same direction that study thought people were. Like, these days, you've got a lot of people that are trying to express who they are, but it's still very relevant, because even those people will have at times found themselves doing this or struggling with this.
Yeah.
And conforming, and when should I conform? How do I conform? Why do I conform?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Before you continue, let's just go through what the study does.
Yeah.
Just give that background.
Yeah. So
for myself.
So imagine you walk in a room and there's 6 other people there, and you've been told you're about to take a test. Like, they, for whatever reason, they want to get your answers to this test, right? You don't know that everyone else in that room is actually a paid actor who's part of the study. You think that, all right, I'm one of these. All these people are here for the same reason.
$20.
Yeah, exactly. Hey man, do you want $20? Ooh, that sounds dicey, but yeah. Right.
How long does it
We just
take?
want you to do a test.
It's going to take half an hour. Done.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
So, you're in a room, other people are there, you're doing a test. There's an experimenter up the front, he's got a bunch of questions. The questions are really simple things like, how long are these lines, right? You've got to choose, it's multi-choice, you've got to choose A, B, C, or D. You've got a 25% chance of getting it right, even if you don't know it, but you're going to know it, because the question is, which line out of these 4 is the longest line? And say, 2 of them are 2 centimeters, one of them's 4 centimeters, another one's 8 centimeters. The one that is 8 centimeters is longer than the rest. But everyone else puts their hand up for the one that's 4 centimeters long. This is question 1, you go, well, I'm right, I know that it's the 8 centimeter one, I'm going to put my hand up for the 8 centimeter one. Question 2 comes around, and suddenly, the longest line there is 9 centimeters, and the rest are 1 centimeter and 2 centimeters still, and everyone else is putting their hand up for the 2 centimeter one, and you're like, well, it's the 9 centimeter one. Then the third question comes around, and it's, which one of these dots is red? And there's 4 dots, one red, the others are blue, green, and yellow, and you go, what the hell? Why is everyone putting up their hand for the blue dot when it's the red dot? Are they all colourblind? Probably not. Whatever. I'm going to put my hand for the blue dot. And people, they do. And they did. You often find yourself conforming to the behaviours of other people, even when you're right and they're wrong. Which, how applicable is that to a lot of situations that people have been in? It happens so much. And a lot of the time, you're in the moment, even thinking about it, and you still do it. It's not this subconscious thing of like, oh well, I'm gonna, I just am now conforming. You actually think about it as you do it, but you still conform.
Well, it would be interesting put in that situation. I mean, I can't imagine what would be going through my mind as people are saying the wrong answers. You're like, what the
did they all forget their contact lenses?
Did I go to the wrong school?
Yeah.
See, and it'd be interesting to see. I would love to know if I would conform. I would be very interested in it. I probably would, but I have a weird stubbornness about me where I'm not. So I would like to know if that plays out. And be like, no, you're wrong. And I just flip the chair and leave. But I would love to have known. But it's interesting how you say that people conform knowing they're right, like knowing they're wrong. Sorry. So with this study, after they finish the test, do they ask this person how they felt in each question?
Look,
or was it just sort of?
I don't think so.
No.
Back then, it's very possible they did. I don't remember the extent of it to that degree.
Yeah.
It's kind of presented in psych as like, oh, look what these people did. It was done throughout an era with questionable ethics processes. So I don't know if they would have had a debriefing of like, this is what we did it for and this is why we did it. Things like the Zimbardo experiment and Milgram often didn't, and it's been, those states were a turning point in the ethics of psychology research. It's the reason why now if you want to do any kind of research you have to pass, well, any kind of research that has ethical questions related to it, you have to pass it by an ethics board. Every uni has one, hospitals everywhere has a ethics board in relation to these things. So I can't tell you exactly what questions the participants were asked afterwards. They were kind of just interested in how people were conforming.
Okay. Just want to stop you there. Before we continue, Can you just speak a little louder?
Speak a little
Yeah,
louder.
that's it. That's it. You start off strong, and you kind of go.
I do,
Yeah.
especially when things are in my ears, because I'm
Yeah.
hearing myself at a certain.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you want to. I know you can hear yourself, but you want to be clearer, so that way I can adjust the volume. Anyway,
Yeah.
give it a couple of seconds. So I just wanted to go into something else here. So we're talking about conformity. What impact? So we're talking about just they're a random sample of groups, so they're random people affecting you.
Yeah.
So what if you have your own, parents building into these their own sort of ideas on what something should be into your life throughout your childhood, right? So would that mean that you would play out these bad, let's say not habits, but these ideologies.
Ideological
freaking hell.
Ideologies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ideologies your whole life.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you're presented with something that would present evidence against that? How would you react?
How would I react personally, or how do I think people?
How do you think people would react?
Well,
let's go with how you would react, and then
me personally. Well, there have been times when I have stubbornly gone, no, that's not a thing. Or times that I've gone, no, I don't want to, hear that.
Really?
But yeah, obviously there's always times when someone brings something up that is counter to how you think, and you just immediately discount it and go, that's not a thing. Like, I don't believe that. I don't think that is a thing. And here's X, Y, Z reason why. And you present them without ever really thinking about them or thinking about the evidence behind them. I like to think that since doing philosophy at university, that some of my subjects, a minor, not a major or anything, so I'm not the most philosophical person out there, but I did do some, and I did really try to embrace the when I feel uncomfortable about something, that is a point where I should probe it and try to understand why I feel uncomfortable about it. And then often I find when I feel uncomfortable about a belief someone else has presented to me, and how that impacts on my own beliefs, it's because I don't actually have a strong enough evidence base to believe what I do believe. It's because I don't know anything about it, you know? So, like, I'll use, for example, this isn't the one with the most emotional attachment to me, but I do remember this quite vividly. First time someone went to me, I don't think humans have free will. And I went, what do you mean? Like, humans have free will? Maybe we make our own choices.
Yeah.
And then I did a whole unit on free will and philosophy, and I actually went into the definitions of what free will are and thought about what free will is, and I got actually a whole informed base of evidence to build a decision about what I thought about free will. And I actually don't think humans have free will in the strictest way that I could define it,
I remember doing that.
Yeah,
when my philosophy one elective, and we looked at it, I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And of course, but I can understand how you would come across that would change your whole way of thinking.
Yeah,
specifically.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, I'm not a religious person, but there are times, when I've been talking to religious people and I'll say something and they'll just go, hey, that's not how I believe this thing. And here's some rhetoric that I've, it's been taught to me that I've never actually thought about. And then I've been like, why, what actually evidence do you have for that? And they go, I don't know. It's hard with religion because it's about faith, but there are certain little things that you go, have you thought about that before? Have you informed it with an actual, proper decision that is based on some kind of information that you've thought about, or that's something that has a reason that has some premises behind it, as opposed to a reason that has no premises behind it. And a lot of people, they haven't, and they get uncomfortable with certain ideas and beliefs because they haven't ever thought something or that idea specifically through to a certain point. I'll bring up the example of, I was once approached by someone from this political group at Monash University. They're quite infamous. They were called Socialist Alternative at the time. Extreme left. And their thing at the time was they were campaigning about freedom in Palestine. Israelis, you should get out. Palestine is for the Palestinians, etc., etc. And this girl walked up to me and was like, hey, have you heard about this? And I went, hey, I have. Have you actually heard any of this? Like, can you actually tell me what you're basing that news bite? Because it was a soundbite they'd gotten from somewhere.
Yeah.
And they couldn't give me one article, one citation at all, or anything more apart from the soundbite that informed their belief. And I went, well, actually, let me give you some stuff, because I actually talked about one of my Jewish friends about this like 10 minutes ago, and here's like 3 news articles and like 2 research articles that I can give you about this topic that tells you that what you just told me isn't actually how things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
What you've just talked to me about is actually propaganda.
Mm.
And they went into their shell. They didn't want to talk about it. They were in denial.
Well, it's interesting. Sorry, my phone there. It's interesting how I listen to a lot of books, and one of them is How to Win Friends. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Have you read it?
I haven't read it, but I know of it.
Look, it's quite a good book, but it talks about how if someone comes up to you with an idea and go away phone. I should have turned it off. It's vibrate. And they talk about something that they believe in or they feel passionate about. Even if they're wrong, and you start pointing out things that are wrong with their belief or whatever it is, they will either go back in their shell or they will just try and back up their belief on this fact. They won't accept your way of thinking. And I found it interesting on how to change people's minds, you have to agree with them. It'd be like, not you have to, but the way you can't really attack and say, no, that's wrong. You'd be like, yes, that, but have you thought of it this way? Or, okay, yeah, fair enough, but I think of it like this. And then you're like, okay, if you accept what I've said, what's he coming from? And you're more likely to change their way of thinking by doing it that way. And I get where you're coming from, and you only had a small space of time, and you probably didn't want to change your mind anyway.
I was just walking past.
Yeah, fair enough.
They approached me.
Yeah, fair enough. And I can understand where you're coming from. Like sometimes they're just like, leave me alone. I just want to do my shit. But I do find that interesting, and that's how you influence people. In terms of that book, whether it's right or wrong, I have no clue.
Well, it's actually, there's a lot of studies done on that.
Yes.
And it is definitely shown that people
respond a bit better.
People respond better when they feel as if someone's on their side.
Yeah.
And it's not helpful in so many circumstances, especially not for trying to get someone on board to your way of thinking, if you're confrontational about it.
I got to turn this phone off. It's going to drive me insane. Sorry.
It's all right.
Pause for a second. Where the hell is this phone?
Is it the one you're recording this?
Oh, shit, it's there. Okay, yeah, don't worry about it. Just keep going. Just small break, folks. Sorry,
Small
folks.
break brought to you by.
Small break brought to you by. Small break. Oh my god. Anyway, continue on. What were we talking about? Influencing people.
Yeah. So, if you want to talk to someone and influence them, then you often have to present it as if you're on their side, or you have to present it at least with a cool mind in a non-confrontational manner, right? Yeah. And when you bring confrontation, people go into their shell.
Yeah.
Right. That's in one way. If I was to boil down why the left never has not progressive, conducive talks with the right, let's say conducive, is because one says something and the other withdraws.
Yeah.
It's just that there's such incredible difference between ideologies that people immediately withdraw. Well, people speak in context, people withdraw.
But how can they maintain their side of their belief and show that to the media while also being able to agree with the other side? I don't think it's possible for them to do it in our current political climate. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if I was left and you were right, and we were both politicians, and we were on a talk show, how could I be like, you talk about, say you talk about coal, like using coal and creating mines, and I can't be like, yeah, I agree with that, and then start talking about my shit. How are you able to? And this is this is what I find quite difficult in situations I don't agree with, or I don't agree with someone. I'm like, yeah, and then I try and do it, but I find it very difficult to be like, no, that's not how I see it. That's not right. When in reality, my view might not even be correct. But it's how can you become more aware of that's really irritating me. How can you become more aware of that sort of impact in that situation? Is just be more aware of what you're thinking, be more aware of what they're going to do, be more aware of their reaction.
I guess, brain training, being in the moment, understanding, what the situation's going to be and how you should interact in response to it. And just coming to things with a level head.
But you can't say yes to everything. Like, if someone's going to make a bad decision in business and you're like, if they do that, like, no, like, you're the boss. You can't be like, yeah, but you can do it this way. You kind of have to be like, no, you're doing it this way. There has to be but where is that line sometimes?
So it's all in the framing, right? So the project I'm working on at the moment, we're trying to figure out how we can present things that will probably promote deficit stereotypes. So
what's it?
So I'm working on I'll give a brief background without mentioning the institution or anything. I'm working on a project that's trying to identify the factors of poverty in different Australian suburbs, right?
Yeah.
And so the danger is that once we figure out exactly what they are for each suburb and we show them to people, that the media is going to go, okay, look, this suburb, I'm from Richmond, let's say Richmond, I don't actually, this is not accurate data or anything, I'm making this up in my head.
From Richmond too, it's great.
Let's say access to services, crime, youth unemployment, drug use are the things that are driving people into poverty there. And you advertise that. And you advertise that to the people in the suburb. There's this thing called labelling theory in criminology, actually, which is where I first learned about it. But it's a very prominent theory, is that, it's if I was to boil it down to a one sentence thing, it says that people become what you tell them they are.
Yeah.
Right? So if I go to a kid in that suburb and tell them that you are growing up in a drug-addled suburb that is full of low educated people, my boss actually puts it this way. He did a study once when he talked to young people, primary schoolers, and he asked them, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they said, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be the top lawyer. I want to be prime minister. I want to do something no one's ever thought about. I want to reach Mars, basically. I want to do the next amazing thing. And then he interviewed people years later in high school, and he said, what do you want to do when you're older?
So he interviewed the same people?
I couldn't tell you if they're the same people,
okay,
but that's the way he tells it.
Yeah.
And their response is, what does it matter? I'm a dumb kid from a dumb suburb. I'm from a proper suburb, right? And so that labelling has changed this person's progression about how they think, what they think they can achieve in their life given their situation. Yeah. And so the danger is that a deficit stereotype, reinforcing a deficit stereotype, is that you will put all these attitudes into this suburb that you didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
Purely because you've said that's what they're like. Or you've identified that this suburb is bad at education.
Yeah.
You will make it worse in there in the future because you will make people believe that.
And people will either try to get out of that or I get what you're talking
about.
But that idea is quite interesting. Usually, if you have a wealthy suburb, usually the people there, the kids, will turn out wealthy because of the groups they've grown up in.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, really.
Yeah.
And a couple of things I've read is, someone's heard this term somewhere where you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. So it's kind of that same sort of idea that you whatever you surround yourself around is what
you will become.
Yeah. Which is interesting because my dad was always like, there's a fine line between giving people false sort of ideas of what, if you're a kid that's been told you can do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want to be.
I love my parents, but that was their soul messaging.
It's a great message.
Soul messaging, but they message
but they forget to put in there, you can do anything, you can be here, with a lot of hard work.
If you put in the
that kind of leaves, and then you've got people winning, 10th gold medals, and this is something that, have you heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V? He talks about this stuff all the time. I love this guy. He talks about how, giving people a medal for participating is actually a detriment to, it's making the value of, making the value of the other medals less, because you're giving this person something for nothing, really. Yeah. And you're teaching them such a bad habit, in a way.
In terms of, like maybe...
Well, you're teaching the kid that you
don't... future activities in putting in effort, but they're also, like, there are positive other lessons, like, just learning to be able to enjoy something for the fun of it, But I get what you're saying, but like... The negativity can be that you're rewarding them for doing nothing, and they learn that that's the norm.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. And if you give, I can see where you're coming from. Is there more negative than positive, or is there more positive than negative? I don't know. But when I heard that, I was like, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. Anyway, going back to what you were talking about.
So you don't want to. I was talking about how you frame things, right? How you frame these conflicts that you could potentially be having with your coworker, who you want to say, no, you can't do it like that because this is the right way to do it, right? You don't have to say it like that. This is the most povo suburb in education, right? But I don't have to say that. What I can say is there is...
Education is a key area that needs...
Not even... there's a huge opportunity here to build a key strength in this community by increasing, services in this area, right? So instead of saying this area is full of homeless people, we need to change that. You go, there's like an opportunity to build more houses to increase the capacity of the community, right? You change how you talk about it. You don't talk about homeless people. You talk about people experiencing homelessness. That's another thing that has come up recently, is person-centered language as opposed to like situation person language. So like instead of saying homeless person, you say person experiencing homelessness, which puts the negativity onto the like not the person itself, but the experience that someone is having, and it immediately brings you into like they're a person experiencing homelessness. They're not just a
homeless person forever. It's just at that point in time. But do you think that is part of? And I don't want to take any value. I think that's quite a valuable thing. But what about kind of driving off topic a bit? But restricting our language in a way that makes it easier to hear, in a way. Does that make sense where I'm coming from? So, and I can't remember the term, but with a lot of things now, you can't say certain things, because you might...
Political correctness.
That's right, yes. Yeah. Is it more on that side of things, or is it just... Because is that the direction where political correctness came from originally, maybe? Then transformed into something else?
I think political correctness came from... Hey, actually, guys, we're speaking in ways that aren't conducive to inclusion and other stuff. We're actually othering people and being kind of dicks to this whole sector of society through the way we talk, right? I don't think this is coming at it from that way. This is just realizing that inherently negative speech and a way of speaking about something kind of breeds more negativity within that area. And so if we want to... And I see this in even my own, like this translates to people's behavior and everything. It's just like, if you come at something with a more positive mindset, you get more positive energy around it. You get more positive belief, and you get people going, hey, we can do stuff,
Smile always makes people happy. Yeah. Even if they're not feeling happy, they return a smile.
Yeah. And there's a whole range of things that would just do better from a bit more positive messaging. Yeah. And it's that kind of angle of just switching something from a negative conversation that you could have to a positive conversation that might be more productive. So you don't go to your boss and go, no, this is the way you have to do it because that's actually how this works. You've just got to, and I don't have the answer to how you do this for everything, right? I don't actually, I can't even think of a way to say that to your boss. But you come in from a different angle and go, hey, look, have you thought about it like this? Or I actually think that there might be this way of doing it
Yeah.
with these benefits, you know, that can do this thing in a better way. Or like, you know, maybe we should try this.
No, not have you thought about. What about asking for a raise? How would you do that?
Me, quite frankly, I'd just do it.
Like, what would you say? Can I have a raise?
Hey man, I've been, you know, like, I'd put together my reasons. I've done my time.
No,
you know?
time. You can't say time. I don't think you say time.
I've done my waiting, 12 years of it. NASCAR.
One thing I watched that I thought was quite cool, but this is in terms of sales. You organize a meeting with your boss. And this isn't my idea. I can't remember where I watched this, but I thought it was fantastic the way he structured it. So you schedule a meeting with your boss. You don't want to mention anything about you wanting a raise, and you ask him or him or her, they. Just go with him or her. You ask him or her at what growth rate I can grow myself. What do they consider above and beyond? And you discuss and you see, and you're like, okay, 6%. I think it was 6%. They said anyway, whatever percentage you choose, and then you go away, and for the next 3 to 6 months, you work on that, and then you come back. And you're like, all right, look, I brought this value to you. I think I deserve a raise. Blah blah blah. And or you've already changed the conversation because you're not focusing on you anymore, because you're like, all right, I asked what you want. I've delivered that. Can we talk about remuneration? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I found that quite interesting when I heard. I was like, okay, how could I apply that in my situation?
I found it interesting, and I think it's a level beyond what, you know, maybe I've been thinking about it. 'Cause, you know, I'm 24. I've just really come out of uni and just entered the workforce. So I haven't been thinking about exactly what language I would use in terms
I haven't
of
done
a
it.
raise.
Yeah.
Whenever it's talked a bit throughout your psych degree and other things.
Is it?
Well, maybe not a bit, but it definitely, like, confidence and the difference between certain people and asking for raises and things is brought up in some broad way, you know. And so I have thought less about what I would say, but would I have the confidence and the ability to go and do it?
Yeah.
You know, and who would and who doesn't?
It is. Yeah.
You know, and why do some people have it and not? You know, it's in the whole gender equal pay discussion. It's brought up quite a bit. That, you know, there's research that say females don't ask for raises as much as men do, or they don't have the confidence to go and ask and do it the same way that men do, or something. There's a difference there.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, people will harness that to put whatever argument forth they want about the gender gap and why it exists, and, you know, victim blaming ways, etc. But, you know, the research is there to say that some people act differently in this regard.
So you're saying that a woman, perhaps with a specific set of skills, can easily have asked for the same amount of pay, as it's just that they're not doing it as much.
I'm saying that, like, some people just don't go and ask because they don't have the confidence to go and ask, to go, hey, you know, I'm worth this.
Do you say
men stereotypically
have more confidence?
Say, like, we'll go into a conversation and go, I'm worth this, give me this.
But is this sort of going back on sort of our social structure and how we've been brought up, and how, I don't know, I feel like we're not the right people to talk about this because we're not women, but, you know, how women have been brought up in a way, or
how
our
the difference in between how men and women are raised.
Yeah.
Or males and females are raised, you know, like, just different groups of people are raised. Yeah, like, that's sociology 101 is social constructivism, and how you...
Social constructivism.
Yeah. Well, it might be social constructionism. Like, it involves
the word.
It involves most of those syllables in that order. Some might need to be different, but yeah, and that, you know, that's the theory that our entire behavior is nurture rather than nature, right? So it's saying that genetics doesn't have a role, or, you know, like, genetics isn't heavily impacted by what we're taught.
Yeah.
And what are we taught? How are we taught it? What are we taught by? Is it just our parents?
Yeah.
Is it, you know, our school? Is it broader than that? Is it the entire way our society functions actually impacts who we are and how we are. And if you're looking at that from the gender point of view, then that is, from the point you're raised, you're told, and you see in a lot of people around you how different people act, right? So you see that women are, if we go back to the 1950s, I talk about the hegemonic male and the hegemonic female, which is basically just a phrase that is referring to like a stereotypical way of being feminine and masculine.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And 1950s, it's males are breadwinner. They're confident. They go out there. They love to like hook up with girls and do all of that kind of stuff. They're macho. They're got muscles and they're physically dominant, etc. Yeah. Whereas females are demure. They do housework. Yeah. They're emotionally intelligent, but maybe not intellectually intelligent. Yeah. All that kind of stuff. Those really stereotypical Western beliefs about males and females. Yeah.
But I definitely think that's changing.
Oh, definitely.
If it's not complete, I think there's going to be a complete turnaround, because I maybe not in the next 10 years, but I reckon females are going to become the dominant.
I think there's going to be a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy.
I reckon at some point in time, because I read something somewhere where, I don't know if it's happening in Australia, but in the US, the amount of guys that aren't going to university is just declining at an astronomical rate, and the amount of women going to university is going up at an astronomical rate. So you're going to have women in higher paid jobs in the future at some point in time, I reckon.
All right.
I believe.
Okay, yeah, I get that, and I hope that your vision becomes a thing. But at the same time, not American, but look at America, we just had a, relatively strong female candidate for presidency.
Hillary.
Yeah, right. She's not my favourite politician ever. I don't have heaps against her, but she's just not my favourite politician ever, right? Even though she's not my favourite politician, definitely preferred her to the option that happened. But people still voted in this vile, sexist dickhead that spoke to the non-elite, right? He presented himself as a non-elite, right? So even though you've got this incredible lift in the amount of female people attending university, getting education and going out there and kicking ass in a like real sense in society, you've still got all of these other beliefs and factors that are playing into traditional roles, traditional ideas, traditional thoughts, and traditional ways of seeing the world. And so like you're sitting there going, next 10 years, I don't see it in the next 10 years. Do I see it in the future? Like very possibly. I can see how it could happen. I don't know if that's the path that time will go down. Like, the society will go down.
Oh, well, going back on to Trump, as you didn't say his name, I was waiting for you to say his name, as he's spoken for everywhere. But I think he look, whether it's him or his team, intelligently played a certain role, but played towards people's emotions in order to get himself in there. And he wasn't a politician. And I think the frustration with a lot of politicians is that the results they promise very rarely come true. And Trump is way left field. Like I can understand how he would have been voted in favor of Hillary, because Hillary, yes, she was a female, but everything else she represented didn't change much. So all of her philosophies and ideologies was quite similar to what they had previously. Yes, I agree. Having a female president would have been a huge step forward, but Trump played towards people he could emotionally impact, and they're the people who are going to go to those polling stations and vote. You know, and the issue that I think, and whether it's right or wrong, but the issue that they had is that not everyone voted, right? So you got a lot of the population that didn't vote, and they would have voted for Hillary more than likely, but they didn't think that Trump would get in, so they didn't vote. The good thing about Australia is that I think it's a good thing that they force you to vote.
I mean, definitely also think that, but like I didn't mean to put Clinton v. Trump as the winning battle of patriarchy v matriarchy. But I just wanted to highlight that
That's
even
still
though
happening.
that there has been such progression in feminism and other things, that patriarchy still won out in that case. An old white man who is like hegemonic and tries to be hegemonic in so many ways.
What if it's sort of that last grab at like power that they have left, right? You know, they're like, oh, they got Trump or Hillary. They're like, oh fuck, men are going to lose this battle. Let's just pick this freak in.
I'd love to think that.
That could be
across the Western world.
Look,
it was Trump got voted in. Brexit happened.
Yeah, I know. It was everything
Brexit happened. Now Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And we have voted Tony Abbott and Scott Morrison.
Yes, that's true. Tony Abbott was
not to mention...
I don't even know who Scott Morrison is. I haven't been following it at all.
Oh, man.
Is he our current dude?
He is our current.
Oh, great.
He is our current Prime Minister. He's number 50 in the last 2 years.
Okay. I stopped listening after Kevin Rudd got to be honest. That's what he was called.
Well, even then, that's another powerful example of patriarchy versus matriarchy. You had Julia Gillard come in, and even though she did come in questionable circumstances, she was vilified the rest of the time she was in. She actually got to do some really cool work, but she was presented in such a way because she was a woman and attacked in such a way because she was a woman that we don't really attack other men for just to destabilize her regime, you know.
But they're attacking from a point because they've never had that before, so they don't know how to put them down. So that they're going with the only way that's different to themselves. Probably this is only I'm just trying to guess what they'd say. Not that it's a good thing, but it's showing you that you know people are realizing that things are changing.
Well, things changed, and then here we went back to a few incredibly patriarchal choices. You know, and
true. Yeah, it's a fair point.
I mean, we've strayed a bit from conformity, but I guess now we're discussing about the conformity to the patriarchy that society has continued to do. But society just acts in that way a lot of the time. It acts in ways that are comfortable. It has a knee-jerk reaction when you bring up something new, and it goes, no. But we need to conform to what we're comfortable to. And I guess, like, if I was to sum up everything we talked about right now, it is actually that people will conform to what they're comfortable doing, right? A person in that age study is putting up their hand to say the same thing as everything else, because in the end, we're social beings that want to get along with each other.
We want to be accepted.
We want to be accepted, right? I can take that into the mental health area. I can take that into politics. I can take that into so many different places. We are just people that want to be accepted by other people. But when we see something new, something that's so big, something that's confronting, something like the matriarchy, or, you know, an atheist talking to a Catholic about their inherent beliefs about how the world happens, we see the new message, I believe, as something that, and a lot of people believe, that will destabilize our understanding of our world and reality. And that's, I believe, why we get so uncomfortable. And because we are reactionary beings, as I've said to you before, we don't stop, we don't think, we don't contemplate, we don't reach for that bit of evidence or like informed decision making. That
some people do.
I often need to make this caveat with people I talk with, is that I often talk in absolutes.
Yes, you do.
But my beliefs are anything but. Right? So in my head, I'm talking about a population of people, you know, this big. I'm pointing to the camera now. In case people aren't watching the video and they're only listening, I'm holding my finger to a certain width. All right? And I'm talking about that population. Size. Right, I'm talking about a population of about a 2-inch space, but I acknowledge that humanity is an incredibly diverse range of beings that cannot fit into a 2-inch space. That's one population. The human population comprises hundreds and hundreds of 2-inch spaces, you know? That often gets me into trouble because I don't acknowledge it at the start a lot of the time, and it is something fundamental to how I think that I don't express.
So you don't, sometimes you're so caught up in what you're trying to get across or your view that you forget to give a sort of baseline
Yeah,
to other people.
100%. You know, like, I can't open every conversation I have with, I am talking about this cohort of people with this problem and, you know, X, Y, Z factors.
But sometimes it might be better because...
Well, that's why I went into research, because they forced me to do that in my method section.
Do they?
You've got to define who you're talking about, because otherwise
people
your
don't
research
know.
is meaningless.
Well, yeah, like I've noticed that at work, like, you go in thinking this and you explain it, and people look at you with dumbfounded looks, like, no one understands what the frick I said. All right, this is what I was trying to achieve. Yeah. But it's the same principle.
It happened at that information note I was telling you I went to the other week, where, you know, we all talked about a certain topic.
Yeah.
In response to something, I said, you know, I find it helpful to be mindful and spend half an hour processing the fact that I got angry, and then after that, I understand why I was angry. And this other girl went, yeah, but everyone processes differently, and that process might work for you. And in my head, I'm like, yes. Like, that's just my response to her, is yes. Because to me, I was talking about me, and I knew I was talking about me. I didn't preface it with, that's how I process things in other people. Like, there's diversity in the world, and people are a diverse bunch. You know, to me, that's possibly because the fact that I did psychology and it's talked about so much in that it's just a given to me in conversation that people are diverse, you know? And so, yeah, but it gets me into trouble because I don't say it a lot of the time.
Well, I mean, maybe, and this is, I don't even know if this might be an idea. Maybe people just want to feel important, and you acknowledging that they exist, even though you're implying it, maybe brings value to them.
Oh, 100%. People are like, we have the need to feel acknowledged as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be helpful if I did all the time, you know. But I'm sure people listening and us talking, like, there are times where we don't define everything we're talking about to the nth degree. And
no, it extends your conversations to another humongous degree, because you're like, all right, this is introduction, body, conclusion. Yeah. And if you do that for everything, it get quite frustrating.
I already speak enough. I already have a lot to say. And maybe it just speaks to my intellectual ability that I think that adding all of that stuff beforehand would distract me from what I would then say. You know? Yes,
but you also need to think of your audience, and they're the people who are going to be intaking all that information from your brain to my head.
Definitely.
And if you want to sell anything, whether it's research paper, whether it's a car, whether it's a phone, you have to have that ability, which is...
And in the right setting, I do. And for future podcasts, I will.
Doesn't have to be for podcasts. Whatever you want to do in life.
Whatever I want to do in life. You need to think about the audience of who you're talking to and what you want them to hear.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we've gone over so many topics. It's not just conformity and stuff.
It is interesting though. I think I could tie them all to conformity.
You could.
That's all I was doing before, is trying to get everything together into this. We are conformative beings that like to feel as if we're in a society, and we get threatened when things attack that bubble of safety, right? And is that matriarchy? Yes. Is that me talking to a religious person going, hey, you've just come at me saying this thing and I'm saying this is my belief? Yes. There's discomfort on both sides. Is it when this person comes to me with an uninformed decision about Palestine and I go, there's research about this, read it before you start saying things that you don't understand, and I need to do more research on it as well. I'm not saying I know everything, you know, like everyone needs to do better in that front to know more. And maybe when that happens, we'll feel less threatened. Because, well, I know I feel less threatened when I have a body of evidence to be able to inform my decision on. You know, when someone comes up to me and says, hey, have you thought about this? I go...
Did my video just stop?
I don't know if it...
Pause.
Potentially.
Did my video... I think maybe I've run out of space.
Huge. Welcome to part 2.
What? Part 2?
Conformity and 100
We've been going for a while. Shit! Nearly an hour. Alright, keep going.
Nice.
Let's try and close this up. So, going back to what you were saying before you cut off.
What was I saying?
Sorry, we had a bit of technical difficulties and my recording device stopped recording, so...
I believe I was saying that people get threatened when views counter to their own are attacked. Well, views that...
Counter their own
are presented.
Yep.
Sorry. But I believe people feel more comfortable. I know I feel more comfortable when I have a body of evidence that I can go, hey, this is actually why I've informed my decision on this. So it's not just this is my argument. It's this is my argument, and these are the premises to that argument that are why, to me, that argument rings true. And, you know, if you want to have a discussion about premise 1, premise 2, and premise 3 and try to, you know, make them less sound so that the argument isn't valid anymore, let's do it. You know, but like, I have the ability to talk about this on an educated, informed level
basis,
that makes me feel empowered. That makes me feel as though I can come to other conversations without feeling threatened.
So it's sort of anything that makes you feel that sense of... I'm back on comfort.
It allows me to have the perspective of, well, these are my premises. And if my premises are wrong, maybe the argument's wrong.
Okay, so...
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So let's just go, you study philosophy. You're an atheist. If someone came to you with proof of a god, like absolute proof...
Okay, so this is how
would that let's just say that there was legitimate proof. How would you respond?
This is how I've been explaining my situation towards supernatural beings lately. It pivots on the difference between belief and me, like an absolute truth that I know. I don't know the absolute truth. No one knows the absolute truth, right? My
God
belief,
could be real.
Exactly, and it could be, right?
It's legitimate. It could actually, could be right.
Yeah, and my belief, unlike some other people, is that there is no God. With everything that I have put together throughout my culminated experience in life, I do not believe that there is a supernatural being that has created or dictated the world. I don't know what has. We could do a whole nother podcast on it. It's one of my favorite lessons in philosophy that I was ever taught, was like the ways in which the universe could have happened from a non-religious standpoint. It just talks about like there being a first thing that then led to everything else. So like either a god or the first atom, etc. You know, or whether time has actually always existed, or if there's a circular loop. I have before, but my mind was blown because it made me sit there and go, "Holy shit!"
I've never thought about this before.
I've always put a lot of power into logic. I've always thought logic is the way to answer things and think and act. I'm not a Vulcan from Star Trek or whatever the other ones are. I think they're the ones that are absolutely love the logic. Spock was one.
I don't know.
I believe.
I've never seen Star Trek.
Live long and prosper.
Star Wars.
I've seen Star Wars too. I'm not much of a Star Trek guy, but I do believe it was the Vulcans.
It wasn't the Vulcans. It was Jared.
And that'll be 100 comments on this with nothing else.
Star Trek.
Hey, if they did, that means they got an hour in.
Fair point.
Great place. You got to look on the bright side. It's all about framing.
It's all about the framing and the positive, right, mindset. That's all it is.
But anyway, I've... how did we get onto that? Logic. I always put a lot of belief into the power of logic. And then that argument, that discussion made me go, well, every possibility as to how we got here is illogical, so let's embrace it. I'll tie that back now into the other thing we were talking about, which was religion and how I would react if someone went, there's 100% a thing about God.
I thought you were going to relate it back to conformity. I was like, how's he going to do this? There's no way he's going to... I'm not going to test you. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, so the way I explain my personal beliefs now is that I don't know. It's just all the evidence has pointed me to believe that there isn't. I completely acknowledge the fact that there could be a supernatural being that exists in a nth dimension that I can never personally experience in any way. I just don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that... I mean, I have trouble with monotheistic religions, like perspective or storytelling, like, you know, they're like, this thing happened and that thing happened and that is how God is. You know, if there is a God, then I just believe it's a powerful being that created stuff. I don't think that it went...
It's like Sims. He's like, oh shit, what happens if this happens? What the hell is he doing?
Yeah.
Why is he doing that? Why is he naked in the pool?
Yeah, a supernatural being may exist. I don't think it's necessarily...
Is that your stomach?
Yeah, man.
Sorry to go off topic.
That's like the second time it's...
I heard it before.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not me. Anyway, sorry.
Sometimes a man gets hungry.
Yeah.
Sometimes
We ate.
Tim Tam.
We already ate.
Yeah, but there's a Tim Tam in the cup.
Alright, just keep going. We're on the...
But this I believe a being may have existed and created shit. I don't believe it would be the Christian God or the Jewish God or the, you know, Muslim God in the way that they believe that God is. You know, like some religions believe God is vindictive and wants you to pray to it, etc. I believe that it would just be some being who did stuff, and we'll never know exactly what its motivations were, etc.
Could be an alien.
Could be an alien.
He was like...
I mean, well, by definition, it would be an alien because it's different to...
Okay, smarty pants.
I mean, different to...
I mean, it could be different... Yeah, whatever. All right.
It's quite alien to us.
Whatever. I didn't mean... I meant like not a supernatural being. It was just someone or something that was further evolved than humans.
Yeah. I'm never going to say that... Well, unless if we get irrefutable evidence, I'm not going to say that impossible because it's completely possible. It just doesn't make any sense to me given what I know about the world and universe. You know?
And there are heaps of other positive ideas that you can bring about that could potentially be what exists, and you can choose to believe those more positive outcomes. Like to me, you have so much choice of what everything could be. Well, why wouldn't you choose one of those? Like, for example, the one that I love, and then I don't know if I've talked to you about this before. It's not positive, but the way it ends is quite cool. So it's the idea that every living being, past, present, future, all of universe, is just you having to experience everything to become an understanding of everything. To have that understanding of everything. So you have to be God, you have to be me, you have to be you, you have to be M, you have to be everyone, right? You have to be ants, you have to be the bees. And with that combined knowledge, once you've completed time, you just get that understanding. And I think that's a cool... I don't know why. I like the idea of that being the end. Like, that'd just be wicked. You just wake up and be like, alright, now, that was a freaking long day.
That was one hell of a dream.
That was one hell of a dream. Like, freaking Jesus had it tough. Bloody hell.
I mean, yeah. I'm a fantasy nerd and I love sci-fi movies and stuff.
Yeah,
so
Matrix would be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As you know, what if we did experience every other reality? But now we're truly off topic.
We are. I think we should just end it there. So that was a topic of conformity and other topics too.
It's very, very loosely conformity. I did try to tie it back into it.
Don't worry. I think we went way...
We went on a lot of journeys there, a lot of tangents, and people will learn from it what they will.
Well, it was a bit of fun. Yes. Well, thank you for coming on.
It was the first time I've ever done a podcast. Thank you for inviting me.
I don't know if we're supposed to ask this, but you know, if people wanted to contact you, you're on Facebook and what's not. Do you want to do that or no? You just like be that enigma.
They can go through you.
Okay, they'll go
to
through
get to me.
All right, thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah.
This is the end with Gabriel Iglesias.